Low mic. There we go. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for taking the time to come and join us today. It is a beautiful day here in Edmonton. Go Oilers, go. We got to see them bring that cup home, right? Yeah. This is our 98th annual meeting of share owners for Canadian Utilities. And it's so wonderful to see so many familiar faces. Thank you all for being here. Before we begin today's presentations and our formal meeting, I did want to mention on a safety note, if an emergency occurs here in the Fairmont McDonald, we will exit through the exit doors signed at this end and proceed straight through out to the mustering point, which is the Weston down the street. That will be our mustering point, and the great staff of the Fairmont will be showing us the way. As we commence our meeting today, we do honor the traditional territories and homelands upon which many of our operations are located. We honor and deeply respect elders past and present who have taught us so much, their diverse history, languages, ceremonies, and cultures. And today we're gathered on the home of Treaty 6, the ancestral territory, a meeting ground for so many First Nations. A traveling route for the Cree, the Saulteaux, Blackfoot, the Métis, Dene, and Nakota Sioux nations. And I would like to welcome our chief that has joined us today, Chief Andy Aluk, Chief of the Big Stone Cree Nation. Chief Andy, whereabouts are you sitting? Right there. Thank you so much. It is indeed a great honor to have you with us today. Thank you. I'd also like to take a few moments to recognize and acknowledge some long-standing and relatively new share owners and special guests that we have with us today. And it is such a delight for me to be able to see you and see you make the effort to come each and every year. Carlos, Carlos is back in the back with Ernest, and Carlos indicated he thinks he bought his shares in around 1980, about the same time that ATCO took over principal control of Canadian Utilities. So 45 years of commitment and a long-standing belief in our company. And Richard's over here in the far corner. Richard bought his shares before 1980, so pre the ATCO acquisition. And Richard said to me, when are we going to get that share price over $36? We're working on it, Richard. We're working on it. And Val is here again. Thank you, Val, with his grandson, a transgenerational approach to long-term ownership in this great company. And Jonathan, welcome to you as well. Bradley, where's Bradley? Bradley Guthrie. He, right back there. Hi, Brad. Brad's a relatively new share owner, but it's great to have you coming on board in these exciting times. And Elizabeth was telling me, Elizabeth is also relatively new share owner. Her granddaughter won the Governor General's Bronze Medal for her scholastic capabilities, the highest top marks. And congratulations, Elizabeth. That is so fantastic. And then my good Dutch friend, Doug Hornbeck. If you ain't Dutch, you ain't much. Right, Rob? And that's what my sister and my mother always says anyway. I'd also like to introduce my long-standing great colleagues on the dais with me today. Bob Myles, our president, Katie Patrick, your chief financial officer, and Kyle Brunner, our General Counsel, Corporate Secretary, and Senior Vice President. Several officers and many of the people of your corporation have joined us today, along with our very esteemed directors. I'd like to begin my presentation by expressing my deepest gratitude to all of you, our share owners. As I said, your support has given us the ability, the strength, and the courage to continue on. Your commitment has been invaluable. And as we stand at a critical juncture in our company, our province, and our country's future, and navigate through very turbulent times, the uncertainty that we faced in recent years is likely to persist and potentially intensify. But despite these challenges, there is reason for great optimism on the horizon. For example, the government of Alberta has recently announced key policy changes within the utility landscape for the province. And this includes allowing hydrogen to be blended in the gas distribution system, refining the design of the electric energy market, and aligning the province's transmission policies with the realities of today's electric grid. And while there's still a great deal of work left to do on each of these fronts, these represent very important, historic, I might say, steps toward a more modern legislative framework for economic development in this province. And I also take heart in our newly elected Prime Minister's commitments to make Canada an energy superpower using conventional and other forms of energy. I welcome his pledge to accelerate the pace to enable large-scale infrastructure growth. And his "Build, Baby, Build" tagline was music to my ears in his acceptance speech. The urgency of national infrastructure and energy corridors has become unmistakable. National energy corridors are not just pipelines or transmission lines. They are the vital arteries that will ensure oil and gas, agriculture products, electricity, telecommunications, transportation flow seamlessly across provinces and reach global markets. And while political will has long been the stumbling block for these corridors, the benefits have never been clearer, and support has never been greater. And for years, ATCO and Canadian Utilities have advocated for such corridors. Seth Palachikio will remember. Not just east-west corridors, though, north-south corridors as well, which is too often forgotten in regard to trade and energy and infrastructure. Our vision to create a north-south corridor from Inuvik to the 49th parallel was the inspiration behind our Alberta Power Line, which is now 40% owned by 7 Indigenous communities here in Alberta. And Canada may be on the verge of a historic investment boom, from ports and rail to West Coast LNG and ammonia exports. Each of these projects have a common need: Indigenous partnerships. And this is not just a moral obligation. It is a strategic necessity for our country and for our nation's future. In fact, of the more than 500 major resource projects that have been announced, planned, or are underway here in Canada, 73% run through or near Indigenous territories. And the value of these projects is estimated at nearly $100 billion. Now just imagine the extraordinary prosperity we could co-create for these communities by enabling participation, participation fully in these projects, and our ability to move quickly to unlock the value depends on our ability to move collectively as true, equitable partners. And without question, recent geopolitical tensions with our closest ally and our largest trading partner have revealed the fault lines in Canada's economic landscape. And to bridge these gaps, we must pursue genuine Indigenous economic reconciliation. There is no other path. However, we must also have fair and equitable regulation that encompasses these infrastructure assets, and in particular, wires that transport electricity and pipes that move natural gas and oil and hydrogen, carbon as well. And the Alberta regulator has been forward-thinking with its approach to a performance-based regulation. Now, the performance-based regulation framework incentivizes utilities in this province to strive for greater operational efficiencies. And then once those operational efficiencies are achieved, those are shared with the ratepayers and the share owners of the utilities in the province. And I'm very proud of this innovative approach that the AUC has introduced, and equally proud of Canadian Utilities in finding more efficient, cost-effective ways to operate. But I just want to let you know, unfortunately right now, just recently, we have discovered that the Alberta Utilities Commission and us, Canadian Utilities, have a difference of opinion in how this type of regulation should be applied. The AUC, the Commission, has decided to be quite retroactive in its approach and to the sharing mechanism, which we believe is unfair to share owners. And so we are challenging this in the Alberta courts on the basis that we believe we have been operating within the regulatory framework as outlined by the AUC originally. And our case will be heard later this year. And it's a big case. It is precedent-setting. Now, let's move on to the formal part of our meeting, which will be followed by presentations by Katie and Bob, and I will then open the floor to your questions. Kyle Brunner will act as our secretary for this year's meeting. Jennifer Villarreal of TSX Trust, our registrar and transfer agent, will act as our scrutineer. And the scrutineers have confirmed there is a quorum present, and this meeting is duly, properly constituted for the transaction of business today. All shareholders entitled to vote did so in advance of the meeting. Now, the first item of business is the presentation of the annual consolidated financial statements and the auditor's report therein. And there were copies outside, and you can grab a copy on your way out today. And the next item of business is the election of our directors. And the corporation's nominees, as proposed in the management circular, are Matthias Bixel, Lorraine Charlton, Robert Hanf, Kelly Koss-Brix, Robert Normand, Robert Routs, myself, Nancy Southern, Linda Southern-Heathcott, Roger Irwin, Jennifer Westacott, and Wayne Waters. And they are a tremendous group of directors with a wealth of experience. And the last item of business is the appointment of our auditors, the appointment of PricewaterhouseCoopers as the corporation's auditor for the ensuing year. And I will ask the scrutineer to provide Kyle with the report so that we may declare the voting results. And while that is happening, I'd like to take the opportunity to recognize two directors from our Board of Canadian Utilities not with us this year, not standing for re-election, both Laura Reed and Hector Rangel. They have both been directors since 2014. And on behalf of the board, our management team, and all of our people in our company, I'd like to extend our heartfelt gratitude to both Hector and Laura for their service and their dedicated counsel to Canadian Utilities. Laura's expertise in the Australian utility and energy sectors has greatly benefited our company, and we thank her. And with his expertise in Mexican banking, investment, and the business arena, Hector Rangel has been a central advisor to our company, especially in our Mexican energy developments. So thank you to both Laura and Hector for 10 years of tremendous service to our corporation. Thank you. And with that, Kyle, turn it over to you.
Thank you, Nancy. The scrutineer's report indicates that shareholders voted in favor of the election of each nominee director and the appointment of PricewaterhouseCoopers LLP as the corporation's auditor for the ensuing year.
Well, then I therefore declare the motions passed. Thank you very much. And congratulations to our board of directors. On behalf of all of us share owners, thank you each for your tremendous commitment and incredible advice and counsel for our company's future. Thank you. I'd also like to introduce you to Courtney Cola, Daria Koziak, and Armando Pinedo, who are here from PricewaterhouseCoopers. Thank you for your incredible diligence in auditing our statements. Thank you very much. Where are you? Right there in front of me. Great to have you here. Well, this concludes the formal part of the annual meeting of share owners, and I declare this formal part terminated. But now I'd like to introduce you to Katie Patrick, who will share with you an overview of our financial performance in 24 and the first quarter of this year. Katie?
Thank you, Nancy, and good morning, everyone. Connecting with our share owners is literally the best part of my job, and it gives me great pleasure to update you on Canadian Utilities' financial health and future outlook in concert with remarks from Nancy and Bob. I'd like to provide an overview of our financial results for 2024 and how 2025 is unfolding from a financial perspective. Finally, I will touch on how the numbers come together from the growth that Nancy and Bob will speak about and how we will fund it. While my story may sound very similar to prior years, I hope you as investors see the value in that consistency. The same messages of growth and resiliency demonstrate that we are on the right path. At a glance, here are some of the key stats that give you an instant read of Canadian Utilities' scope and scale. We have a strong base of assets to build from, but let me point out what is by far and away our most valuable asset, our 9,100 exceptional people. This slide of stats and numbers just can't capture the energy, enthusiasm, and expertise of the Canadian Utilities team. These are talented colleagues that we all on the dais here get to work with as we deliver the projects and services that help our customers and communities achieve the goals, live comfortably, and create prosperity and well-being. Now let's dive into our results. 2024 was a great year for Canadian Utilities, and we demonstrated continued excellence in operational execution. We achieved adjusted earnings of $647 million, up from $596 million the year prior. This year-over-year growth was driven by a few factors. Notably, the growth of rate base across our utilities. Also, an increase in the allowable return on equity from 8.5% in 2023 to 9.28% in 2024, and the benefit of the efficiency carryover mechanism, which provided an additional 50 basis points of return on equity in our distribution utilities. These results have been very well received by our investors and the market. Continuing this trend while delivering on the growth we have promised is our key focus. And just yesterday, we released our Q1 results for Canadian Utilities. We had a very strong first quarter and achieved adjusted earnings of $232 million, up from $225 million during the same period in 2024. We are very happy with these results in the face of some of this year's headwinds. As we look to the balance of 2025, we do expect that some of these headwinds will moderate the earnings growth we saw in 2024. Our allowable return on equity of 9.28% for 2024 has been reset to 8.97% for 2025, and that's across our Alberta utilities. Despite this, we will have rate-based growth across all of our utilities and continued efficiencies throughout our businesses, which will translate into high-quality earnings for 2025 and beyond. I'd also like to mention that on the non-regulated side of our business, we are seeing very strong results from our storage business. Last year's adjusted earnings of $38 million from this area was 23% higher than the year prior. As we look to 2025, we expect our storage business to have a similar earnings profile to last year. This is driven by our success in securing several favorable long-term contracts. Now, ultimately, we need to translate all this great earnings growth into concrete value for our investors through share price appreciation and dividends, our total shareholder return. Over the past year or so, we've really seen the recovery of our share price, both on a relative and absolute basis. This is attributable to our clear growth path and trust and stability we offer our investors. Here you see on the slide Canadian Utilities' total shareholder return shown against the S&P Utilities Index. We are very happy that we can show this story this year and remain extremely focused on keeping this trend going. Now, Bob will speak to some of the growth projects and initiatives for Canadian Utilities. To set that stage, I wanted to give a perspective on the size of the capital investments we are making and reinforce the optionality we have within our portfolio. You can think about this as a balance between our stable and predictable earnings from our regulated utility business in Canada and Australia, along with our non-regulated growth projects higher up on our growth triangle. These business prospects, both organic and external, are places where we can move quickly and deploy capital to higher return opportunities, taking advantage of market and commercial conditions. Bob will touch more on some of these opportunities. The analysts and institutional investors who follow us are keen to know about our financing plans for these investments. As we look at the size of some of the large upcoming projects, the size of the capital spend will require us to pull multiple levers of funding, in addition to our own internally generated cash flow. We continue to have a very strong credit rating above many of our peers in terms of our A- credit rating at Canadian Utilities. So we certainly have some opportunity for more funding to come from leverage to fund a portion of that growth. We're also open and actively pursuing other forms of funding. This includes Indigenous equity, as Nancy spoke about, as we've done many times in the past, including most recently with our Deerfoot and Barlow solar facility. It also includes partner equity, as Bob will discuss with respect to the Heartland Hydrogen Project. It could also include private capital and some form of equity. You can rest assured, though, that our decisions on how we fund this growth will be about maximizing share owner value. And with that, I will conclude and turn it back to Nancy.
Thanks, Katie. Well, I'm sure, like us, our share owners are very pleased with these results. I couldn't be more proud. Over the past 15 months, we have seen a tremendous acceleration of efficiency and imagination and courage in all of our operations. So just before Bob gives his presentation, and in case you missed our press release this morning, I'm proud, so proud, to announce that Bob will now be Canadian Utilities' Chief Executive Officer, which is a great accomplishment. Well done, Bob. At the turn of this century, in May of 2000, at this very meeting, on this very stage, my father announced me as CEO of your company. And such an honor it has been. There have been some seemingly insurmountable challenges along the way throughout my 25 years as your CEO. But as I reflect on this past quarter century, hard to believe, it is the people of our company I want to thank and recognize. Past and present, they have worked courageously in the face of adversity, and they have achieved so much. It's been a great privilege to work alongside of them, to learn from all of you, and to grow our company together. We have believed in the transgenerational principles that the test of success and our differentiating factor at Canadian Utilities is in our ability to give share owners sustainable earnings through economic cycles. And since ATCO acquired its principal ownership in Canadian Utilities in 1980, when the share price was $26.25, and our earnings were only just over $40 million, I am very proud to say that we have done 2 share splits, one in 2005, one in 2013. And today, with our share price just over $37, I know you all think it's still too low, but you, like Ernest, like so many others, like Richard, if you had bought into Canadian Utilities, 1980, when ATCO took principal control of Canadian Utilities, the total shareholder return is 10,438%. And that is an annualized compounded growth rate of 11.1% in 45 years. And as you heard from Katie, today our earnings are well over $640 million. Now, analysts and headline writers don't seem to want to talk about this. But I can tell you this is an extraordinarily rare achievement. And it is something that I hope, not just us share owners, not just the people of our company, not just our board of directors, but I hope the Canadians recognize the contribution that we have collectively made to this country. Next to our people, our balance sheet has and must continue to be our most precious asset. It must be nurtured and it must remain strong so that we can move with full force when the right opportunities come available. And it is our customers that will determine our success. These transgenerational principles are ingrained in the people of your company today, and there is no one that I, your board of directors, ATCO, or my family have greater confidence in to lead this company into an exciting and successful future than my colleague, Bob Myles.
I've been told this many times that the toughest job in this company is following Nancy, and I'd say that's definitely the case today. Nancy, thank you from the bottom of my heart for having the trust in me and our team, and we won't let you down. I was away from ATCO for a number of years, and I thought a lot about what I've learned from Nancy and what she established in the organization. And for those of you who know me, I like to make things really simple. And I broke it down into 3 words. They all start with the letter V. And the first word is vision. And I think all of you would agree that Nancy has definitely established the vision for this organization. not only for a perspective of a long-term view, but also her views on Northern Canada, her views on Indigenous relations. It's something that I think everyone in our organization definitely is very proud of what you've established. I could tell you personally, it's something that I've learned, and people probably get tired of me talking about strategy, but it's really a different word for vision, and I've learned that from you, Nancy. The second thing I'd say with another letter V is values. And I do get choked up when I say this because I learned that when I was away from ATCO. And if you think of our values, I think we all know them. It's caring, it's integrity, it's collaboration, agility, and safety. And when I was away from ATCO and I'd speak to people about my time at ATCO, it was synonymous with Nancy and our values. And it's something that I learned when I left the company, and I know it today. So that's something that I really saw in Nancy. And the third V, in my simple way of thinking, is valiant. Nancy's determination, her boldness, her confidence to get things done, not to take no for an answer. It's something that I actually do all the time. And it's something when I look back on everything, it's something that I've learned from Nancy, and I'm totally appreciative of everything that Nancy's done for me and for our organization. And so I really would ask everyone here to join me in thanking Nancy for, I didn't know it was 25 years, but for 25 years, and I will say, Nancy, I really look forward to working with you for 25 more years. So thank you. I really would like to say, I guess we're done now, but unfortunately, you still have me up here for a little while longer. So thank you again, Nancy, and thank you, Katie. It truly is my pleasure to be with all of you this morning. Importantly, it is my distinct honor to represent the great people of Canadian Utilities who have brought us to where we are today. With Katie capturing the overall financial update and how the business performed in 2024, I'd like to share more about the Canadian Utilities strategy for the future. I will focus on updating you on some of our growth projects and growth prospects. Let me share with you our Canadian Utilities strategy statement. We believe there is a bright and bold future for our customers, our communities, and our investors by delivering on this strategy. Canadian Utilities is a diversified energy company with a solid foundation of high performance focused on long-term growth. We optimize capital investment across the energy value chain, and we operate safely and efficiently to deliver lasting value to customers, communities, and share owners. We will get to this bright future by focusing on a few key imperatives. Everything that we do in Canadian Utilities will fall into these three pillars. The first pillar is growth and prosperity. This involves pursuing growth projects like the Yellowhead Pipeline, and it involves developing new relationships and mechanisms with our partners, our regulators, and our customers to create an industry built on mutual trust. We have developed a healthy pipeline of opportunities across Canadian Utilities. Second is operational excellence. This involves creating the most efficient, reliable, and simple operating model. It's about streamlining and realigning our business for maximum effect and impact, and it definitely involves being a leader in our safety performance. And thirdly, we are focused on financial leadership. This includes being able to effectively finance our growth plans in new and innovative ways, as Katie has already mentioned. It's also about identifying partnership opportunities and streamlining operations to drive efficiencies and create financial support to create our growth ambitions. It includes the results we deliver to our share owners, including our largest share owner, ATCO. Of course, I don't need to tell you that we've just had a federal election with a new prime minister in the seat. I also don't need to tell you that we have had some interesting times with tariffs and the nationalization versus globalization of trade. What I do need to tell you is this. I want to assure and reassure you that our strategy is resilient and opportunistic. The stable utility business of ATCO Energy Systems and the growth and yield prospects of ATCO EnPower provide us with optionality and diversification opportunities. We continue to be bullish on the energy prospects for Alberta. We have a growing province, as Nancy mentioned, and we continued growth in demand from the residential and commercial and industrial sectors. Progress on each of these projects that I will discuss involves collaborative efforts with government, regulators, our partners and customers, as well as many local communities. Getting to a green light on new energy infrastructure in Canada is not for the faint of heart. I thank my Canadian Utilities colleagues for their tenacity in making meaningful progress. Last June, together with our partner Shell, we made the final investment decision, or FID, to proceed with the first phase of the Atlas Carbon Storage Hub. This first phase of Atlas will provide permanent underground storage for carbon dioxide captured from Shell's Polaris project. The next phase of Atlas will be aimed at meeting both ATCO EnPower and Shell's carbon storage needs, with the remaining capacity being available for third-party emitters through an open access process. Katie has already mentioned the strong results that we're seeing from our natural gas liquids and natural gas storage business. Unlike some of our other businesses, the assets are largely out of mind and out of sight for most folks, but they are incredibly stable and dependable earnings drivers, and they play a key role in the energy transition by insulating against periods of supply and demand volatility. I also would like to update you on the Heartland Hydrogen Hub. Last year, we partnered with Linde Canada, who will be both a partner in equity as well as the operator in this project. This partnership provides the quickest path to reach a final investment decision, as Linde's global project expertise will help improve the overall process, cost, and timing of this project. The establishment of a stable federal and provincial political environment will have a big impact on the timing and development of this initiative, as well as the export part of this project. This is required to give off-takers the confidence to commit to such projects. Finally, I'd like to provide a more detailed update on the Yellowhead Pipeline project. This is a great example of an important project that enables Alberta prosperity and drives rate-based growth expectations. At a time when the need for Canadian energy infrastructure is in the spotlight, the Yellowhead Pipeline remains a critical infrastructure project needed to support a broad range of customers and industries to help meet Alberta's energy needs. The Yellowhead Pipeline project, which is already 90% contracted, is on schedule and adhering to all regulatory processes. We are enabling the province's competitive advantage while addressing the energy demands of our growing population and industries. As Nancy indicated, Indigenous equity partnerships are crucial to the mutual advancement of Canada and Indigenous communities. And I am very pleased to announce that the ATCO Energy Systems team is working diligently to secure a meaningful Indigenous ownership position in this project, and we aim to have this finalized within the next 12 months. We have a brief video that will provide some additional color on our Yellowhead project. Can we please play the video?
The Yellowhead Mainline is a significant initiative for ATCO and for Alberta. It aims to add capacity to our province's critical energy infrastructure and provide a new and more direct path for natural gas to reach the Edmonton area and the Alberta industrial heartland.
With construction scheduled to start in 2026, our teams have been active in consulting and engaging with community members. The preferred route for the pipeline has been selected, balancing feedback from the community with construction and environmental considerations. We've held several open house sessions in local communities, giving us the opportunity to hear from stakeholders and for residents and business owners to learn more about the project. We continue our work to assess environmental impacts and hold firm to the belief that responsible project development honors environmental stewardship, and respects communities and landowners.
Yellowhead is expected to enable significant economic benefits, more than $20 billion in investment across the province, nearly 24,000 jobs by 2028 when these projects are fully operational, and contributing $3.9 billion annually to Alberta's GDP. We believe in the future of natural gas as a foundational fuel. A healthy and competitive natural gas sector is vital to growing industry within our province.
The Yellowhead Mainline is a transformative project for ATCO and Alberta, and an important example of how we can get critical energy infrastructure built in our country.
I do feel strongly that's a great project for us and for all of Alberta. Last year, we were fortunate to have ATCO Australia's John Ivalich here to provide a report on his business. John could not be here today, and I will simply say that the Australia team is continuing to do an excellent job in running an efficient and safe business. Their earnings were down from last year due to the impact on inflation indexing on rate base in ATCO Gas Australia. However, they are operating under a revised regulatory arrangement beginning this year, and we expect earnings to be positively impacted. On behalf of all of ATCO and Canadian Utilities, I really do thank the Australia team for their continued diligence to safely operate our gas system and power plants, and for their efforts to expand the number of customers we serve in our Perth area service territory. I truly appreciate being able to update you on Canadian Utilities and look forward to any questions you may have during our Q&A period. So in closing, we're always taking a long-term view, as we know, as to how we drive growth for our organization. We have a great balance of stability and optionality and a tremendous team working day in and day out to provide our customers and our communities with the energy and products they need. And that team is also there when climate events like fires, frosts, and freeze-ups create operational challenges and impacts to the community. So as I turn things back to our chair, I'll leave you with a video that demonstrates our team's commitment to the community and to the response we delivered during the Jasper fires last year. Thank you.
In the summer of 2024, Jasper National Park faced a devastating wildfire, forcing 25,000 people to evacuate, destroying over 350 structures, including severe damage to more than 800 ATCO gas and electric assets. As the wildfires spread, ATCO's team worked to isolate the natural gas system and maintain electricity until evacuation was necessary. I think when I look back on our response in Jasper, the first thing I think about is how the people of ATCO came together from all corners of the province to support our efforts. The teams faced a variety of unique challenges on the ground, with the daily bears and wildlife interactions, along with a number of active fires in the area. But the one thing that stands out for me is that we all did it safely.
Despite extreme smoke and harsh conditions, our teams quickly assessed damage and prioritized restoring power to critical facilities. Our team's efforts were commendable. Within just 16 construction days, 100% of undamaged homes were reconnected to electricity. We're gearing up for the next wildfire season by being proactive. We've got solid business continuity plans and incident management teams to make sure we can respond quickly and effectively. Everything we do is rooted in that commitment. ATCO has supported Jasper since 1942, providing reliable energy and engaging the community beyond providing essential services. ATCO has lived, worked, and volunteered here, sponsoring events like our Jasper in January, and this year, the Oilers Hockey Clinic presented by ATCO was held in Jasper at the beginning of May.
ATCO employees from across the province answered Jasper's call for help. More than 400 incident management team members in Hinton and Jasper, along with remote staff, demonstrated unwavering commitment. As Jasper rebuilds, ATCO remains committed to supporting recovery and growth.
I hope that brings you as much pride in our people as it does myself. And thanks to Katie and Bob for your great presentations. I forgot to mention that I will remain on the board as your executive chair. And on behalf of all share owners, along with the board, we'll keep the pressure on. One of the incredible points of pride always in our companies is our ability to give back to the communities that we have the privilege to serve. And we don't see ourselves just as an energy provider, but also as a good neighbor. And with that, I would like to thank our incredible leadership team and all of the people of Canadian Utilities, our businesses, our contractors, most importantly our customers, for their trust and commitment to us as we all grow in this great province together. And now I'll open the floor for questions or comments, anything that you may have going on in your minds. Right here.
Thank you, Nancy. When I was a kid, $1 million seemed like a lot of money. Now it has to be billions and trillions. But it's a little thing, but I'm a member of Service Credit Union, and they give $1 million away every year, and I always go into the bank and I say, why don't you give $100 gift certificates or whatever, so that 100 people can benefit rather than just one. So I would direct this to our advertising department, in that they could give a portion of their budget back to the members. We call it, like in Newfoundland, they call it payback, giving back. And I don't know how many hundreds of people we could benefit from that. We could even take the campaign to try and get new customers and put that money towards this gift to all our customers. And I think it would really be a thing of loyalty. You know, people would say, wow, you know, this is a great company. And also it would convince me to get my kids and everybody I know to join ATCO. So I just wanted to give that to the advertising department.
Well, thank you very much for that, Doug. And I'm just going to have Becky Penrice, our Chief Administration Officer, respond, because I think perhaps we haven't advertised it as much as we should. But Becky, maybe you could explain to our group here, and Doug especially, about our EPIC campaign.
Yes, absolutely. And thanks for the comment and suggestion, Doug. We agree that the more people we can impact in our communities, the better. And so we have a program that is, we call it EPIC. It's Employees Participating in Communities. And we have contributed, I'd have to double check the numbers, but I think we've contributed well over $50 million to communities around the country. 59. 59 million to be precise. We have the people who actually do a lot of the work. And so what we do is, within each of our business units, we have our people decide what are the sponsorships and the people that we want to focus on. Some years it's mental health, some years it's children, some years it's fires and different things that are happening in the communities. And so we have a program that we're very, very proud of, that we contribute in the communities too, and we continue to do that. I think, talking about the advertising budget and how we can maybe give some of that back, that's something I'll talk to our marketing team about. But I think we have a very strong commitment to our communities through our EPIC program, and we're going to continue that.
Doug, over I think, well, I think everybody has felt the pain of inflation and slower growth in the province recently. We have felt that it's very important that our people that are in Fort McMurray or Grand Prairie or Cardston or Lethbridge, that they have the pulse of the community and understand where our donation dollars should go. And so it's not something that we direct from, the senior offices. And as a result, we get great employee participation back into the communities. And I don't believe there's been a year in our last, I don't know when we started this, but it's at least 15 years ago. There hasn't been a year that we haven't given back more than $2 million, and it's usually well over $3 million into the communities that we serve. But I take your point. It is something, we want to do it, and so it's not something that we want to necessarily brag about because it's how we feel about being in the communities, but we probably should let more people know about our contributions. So thank you for that. And V-Day got underrepresented, didn't it? Also, maybe we could put some advertising dollars towards our great Canadian-Netherlands relationship in the future. And thank you for being a part of that. Anything else? Yep, Chief.
Good morning, everyone. Chief Andy Aluk. So I just wanted to ask about the Canadian Utilities Limited efforts in truth and reconciliation and how they're moving towards reconciling with First Nations communities and the 94 calls to action. Mm-hmm. As an example, how is Canadian Utilities Limited specifically building the relationship with First Nation communities when it comes to sustainable communities? As an example, housing.
Housing. That's a good question. Chief, you may not be aware, but actually our former chair and CEO, my dad, Ron Southern, believed in true Indigenous partnerships decades ago. And our first true equity partnership was formed with the Dene in the Northwest Territories almost 40 years ago, 38 years to be exact. And that has been foundational in how we approach the First Peoples of Canada. We have well over 40 partnerships. We contribute on an annual basis well over $120 million in revenue, benefits, earnings to those partnerships and relationships. Everybody in our company does cross-cultural training to understand the diversity of the cultures and languages and history of the communities that we have the privilege of interacting with. The biggest honor of my life was being presented with an honorary chieftainship by the Piikani in the Blackfoot Confederacy by Chief Weaselhead. My name is Akikstawa Apaki, brave woman. And everyone in our company believes in the self-determination of Indigenous communities, the ability to make free, unfettered decisions, and we are all in support of truth and reconciliation. And it is something that we celebrate, we recognize. We have a tremendous cadre of Indigenous individuals in our corporation that help us and remind us to stay true to truth and reconciliation. And I hope that you and your community and us can find many ways to build business and prosperity in the future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything from anyone else? Well, if not, now Val, Isn't that pretty astounding return to shareholders? I know when you look at it from on a day-to-day basis, Jonathan, you remember this. Transgenerational principles are so important in these times. It is what will make this country great. And inclusion of the people and their knowledge of the land, our Indigenous people of Canada, is very important in that transgenerational principle view of our long-term prosperity. So while you may get frustrated as share owners for what seems to be incremental and slow-paced improvement in the share price on a day-to-day or quarter-to-quarter basis, I want you all to remember what you have all achieved as share owners, as people of our company, as boards of directors. What you have achieved is truly remarkable. Thank you all very much. Please feel free to join us for coffee in the foyer, and look forward to chatting with you further. Thank you.